Welcome everybody to the webinar. We're going to give just a minute or two here to let everybody join in. Thank you all for coming on time. Appreciate it. We'll give everybody about a minute or two, and then we'll get things started. Again, thanks everybody for joining. We're just going to give everybody about a minute or two to join the webinar. We see some of you coming in here. Thank you guys for attending. Appreciate it. Okay, welcome. Thanks, everybody. Let's go ahead and just get started here. We've got a tight hour, so I want to keep everything on time. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. Today's webinar is about Shopify and migrating to Shopify. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different Shopify plans that are available, kind of understanding why Shopify is potentially a good choice. Also talking a little about knowing when you should upgrade, when you should change, right? When is the right time to signify that it's time to migrate? And then we have a couple site audits. We have a couple people who they bravely give us their URL and said we can do a little bit of a site audit to get a sense of are they in fact ready to migrate to Shopify. So let's get things started. I'm going to start first here by introducing who is going to be leading the webinar. So for today's webinar, as always, it's going to be myself. I'm Dean. I'm the CTO from Sunrise Integration, and joining me is going to be Patrick.
Hi, if you can see me, I'm the little talking head on your screen. My name is Patrick, consultant and director of business development here at Sunrise Integration. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Patrick. Patrick will be in charge of the Q&A and the chat and everything. So if you have any questions about anything, Patrick will be the one you'll be talking to, but we'll talk about that in a second. First and foremost, who are we? What are we all about, right? Why are we the ones putting on this webinar? So I just want to give a couple seconds here to talk about us. We are Sunrise Integration. So we are a longtime Shopify Plus partner, as well as, over 20 years of e-commerce and retail experience. So we work a lot on the front end, doing designing sites, as well as the back end, understanding things, like we're talking about today, migrations, hostings, integrations with different kind of ERP and CRM systems. So very much kind of comprehensive on the e-commerce side, lots of experience with Shopify. As I mentioned, we do have a live Q&A, and Patrick is going to be the one in charge of that. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a thing there that says Q&A. If you click on that, you're able to ask questions. Feel free at any point in time during the webinar to just go ahead and ask any questions that you want. The questions will be put into a queue, and we'll get to those in real time. Some of them we can answer during the webinar. Some of them we might have to answer kind of offline or just type the response, but definitely feel free at any point in time as any questions arise, feel free to put them into the Q&A section there, and Patrick will definitely take care of it. Okay, moving on. Let's review today's topics and everything that we're going to be talking about. So as we mentioned, today's webinar is all about migrating to Shopify. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why, right? Why do you want to migrate to Shopify? What does Shopify have? What could potentially do better than anything you may be utilizing right now? After that, we're going to talk a little bit about the different Shopify plans. If you're new to Shopify or you're not super familiar with all the different plan types, we just want to take a few minutes to talk about all the different kind of plans that are available and which one may or may not be the right choice for you. Once we talk about the plans, we're going to want to talk a little bit about when are you ready to migrate, right? What are the signals? What should you be looking out for to say, you know what, I've outgrown my current platform. I need to make a change. So we want to talk a little bit about that. And then at the end, as I mentioned, we're going to do some site audits. So we have a couple people who have given us their website and they've said, just give us a quick little audit. And so what we'll try to do is take a look at the site, see if it feels like they're a good candidate for Shopify and potentially what plan would make sense kind of based upon what we're seeing and hopefully if the site owners are here we'll talk with them live and we can do like a live audit with them in real time, so that should definitely be lots of fun and we're looking very excited to do that. So let's jump right into it here. Let's jump right into the beginning, which is why are you wanting to migrate to Shopify, or why does one want to migrate to Shopify? Um, if you're not familiar with Shopify, Shopify has really become this ultimate commerce platform. They really decided to say, hey, we're going to let you do everything in one platform so you don't need to jump around. And that's extremely advantageous, especially if you have multiple stores or if you're doing retail or maybe you're selling internationally. In the past, you'd have to maintain lots of different stores, lots of different potential sites and manage all of them. Gets really, really difficult. Shopify's idea is that you can do it all at once. And it's what they call a unified commerce solution. So the idea is everything can be handled all at once from within the platform. So as I mentioned, you can do your online store. You could potentially handle all of your B2B and wholesale, even marketing. There's some really cool marketing features. There's the point of sale, as we mentioned. So lots of great stuff you can do all with a single platform. So that's definitely one really, really great thing about Shopify. The other thing is conversions. If you've seen some different websites, or maybe this is a problem with your websites, the checkout is the most important step, right? That is the last opportunity you have to get somebody to convert. And some sites just really don't have the best layout for their checkout. Maybe it's a little bit confusing. There's too many fields, or you have to jump through different pages, or you have to, put thing in one area, then you go to the other area. Sometimes the checkout gets very, very confusing. And Shopify has the highest converting checkout. They've done, you can see here, they've done some stats on this, and they've got a 36% conversion rate on their checkout with an average of a 15% increase. So they've really thought about the checkout process. They've really optimized the checkout process. So definitely something is really exciting about working, having a Shopify website for your business. Also, multi-channel, like we mentioned before, having everything in one location. So a lot of these days, you're not just necessarily selling on your own website, you're also using a lot of other channels. So you may have things like Amazon or Walmart or Etsy or Target. So having all these different other channels, but being able to manage them from your centralized Shopify store is a great advantage, right? That's a really good reason as to why you'd want to potentially utilize something like Shopify. So you can have all of that in one location, all of your orders coming in. You can manage it. You can do all of your fulfillment all from one location. Again, a really, really great thing to have. And one of the reasons why you'd really want to migrate to Shopify is to take advantage of all that. Another great thing that Shopify has is their analytics. Really, really comprehensive. They just upgraded their analytics actually here just a couple months ago to what's called an exploration. So you can create a lot of custom reports. You can create a lot of custom stats, really, really comprehensive reports right out of the box. So oftentimes, for you to know how you can make your store better, you need to know what your store is doing. What's your traffic look like? What's your average order value? How many people are ordering? How many sessions? Where are they coming from? All of these stats are going to help you make better decisions for how to grow your platform. And all of this is going to be native inside of Shopify. So definitely something really cool to have in Shopify. Another thing that comes native on the Shopify side is B2B support. So if you're working with any kind of wholesalers or retailers, the Shopify Plus plan comes with the ability for you to do B2B. And this is really kind of a magical channel, right? If you can unlock B2B sales, it's almost like this entirely other great revenue stream that you can handle in addition to the online business that you're doing now. And you can do all of this again in Shopify. It's unified. You're able to manage your normal online sales, your D2C sales as they're called, and then your B2B sales all from one platform. So it's really definitely very advantageous to have that in one location. Another reason why Shopify might be a great choice is the marketing side of things. A lot of platforms will let you create a website, you can make your store, You can put it there, but then the next obvious question is, well, how do I market it, right? How do I get people to come to my store? How do I support my clients? How do I support customers? Well, Shopify has these integrated marketing tools. They have things called Shopify Forms. There's Shopify Inbox that's available here. I missed it. Shopify Forms. There's a thing called Shopify Inbox, Shopify Emails for doing segmentation. So in addition to having an e-commerce platform, you're also getting an integrated, like kind of like a little mini CRM where you can send emails to your customers and clients. You can create campaigns. You can segment everybody together. It's really, really powerful features. And that's just part of what you get with Shopify. So a really, really great option to have that you just get out of the box. Talking about unified, once again, point of sale. So integrated into the platform is what's called Shopify's Point of Sale Pro and then Shopify's Point of Sale Lite. And everybody gets Lite by default. It's the kind of the simple one. But now you can go out and sell anything that's in your store now, do a pop-up shop, or maybe you're running a flea market or anything and all like that. You now have the ability to utilize like a tablet or even just your regular phone, like an iPhone or an Android phone, and basically accept payments anywhere. So you're not necessarily confined to just online. You can now take all of the same information that's in your online store and go to any kind of retail location, pop-up shops or anything kind of cool like that. So again, really great expansive way to unify all of your commerce. And lastly, in terms of another great reason, is the App Store. So one really, really big advantage of Shopify being the popular platform is that a lot of developers want to develop for the platform. So if you've seen some of these other potential e-commerce platforms that are out there and you check out their app store, yeah, they've got some apps, but it's maybe not quite as full as you would want it to be. If you go take a look at Shopify, everybody is designing for that platform. There are app developers making all kinds of great apps for all kinds of different things. You've got the Shopify apps, you have point of sale apps, you have marketing apps, CRM apps, loyalty apps. There's just a ton of things out there. So it really gives you a robust platform. So definitely makes a lot of sense to potentially utilize it. So just wanted to highlight a couple of things here as to why you would want to migrate to Shopify, right? What is the reasons behind it? You may think, hey, I've got a site now. It's perfectly fine, right? Well, do you have all those things that we just kind of talked about? If not, so now you've got, the first couple inklings of, maybe I want to look at potentially going to a different plan. Um, so the next question would be, well, what plans are available? So we just want to take a few minutes to look at the different Shopify plans and kind of talk about the differences between them. Now, there's a lot here. There's a lot of different features and functionalities. So we're going to try to focus on the key ones, right? What are the ones that really differentiate the different platforms, and which are the ones that are probably most important? And this is based off of our experience that we're seeing from our clients. What are our clients saying are those important features for them? What are the things that they really want? So we're going to try to definitely focus on those so you can see what that looks like. Um, I'm going to pop over to the Shopify site. So if you go to shopify.com/pricing, you'll get to this page. And this is the pricing page and the plan page for Shopify. So we're going to start at its most basic to show you the different plans. So I'm actually going to, I don't think I might get myself out of here so you can see everything. So these are the four plans, the four kind of basic plans that come with the Shopify platform. There's Shopify Basic, right? So this is the kind of starter plan that they have, $29 a month for that plan. Moving up next is their Grow plan. Then they've got their Advanced plan and the Plus plan. So you can clearly see from in terms of the costs, right? The Plus is a little bit more of the expensive platform, but it comes with a lot of great features, and we'll talk about what those features are in a second. And then there's a couple other plans here to choose from in terms of what you need and what are the different features that you want. If you were to continue scrolling down this page here, you can click on this link here that says full list of features. And when you open that up, you'll see a lot of different features and a great little checklist here, right? There's a lot of different things that you can look at to get to differentiate what's included in that plan, what do you get, seeing which ones make sense. Like I said, there's a lot, right? You can see me scrolling, right? There's a lot to go through here. What I'd like to do though is let's jump back over to our slideshow and let's focus on some of the key notes to help you make sense of some of the different information that's on there. So I'm going to start with some of the basics, right? Um, a lot of our clients ask us, well, how many products can I have or how many customers can I have? So one really cool thing about Shopify is that all of the plans, right? All of these four main plans all have some really basic information that comes with all of them. You're going to get unlimited hosting. You're going to get unlimited contacts. In other words, your customers and your contacts in the system, completely unlimited in all the plans, unlimited products, right? You have as many products as you want. The analytics, like we just showed you a moment ago, all plans have really comprehensive analytics. All plans have access to Shopify's theme stores and templates, so you can make custom themes, custom templates. All those different sales channels that I mentioned a moment ago, selling on social media, selling in the different marketplaces, selling through POS, that's available on all plans, and all plans have support, live 24-hour support. So again, regardless of which plan you choose, this is pretty cool. You're definitely getting a lot here, right? A lot of unlimited information, a lot of unlimited everything that's available for all the different plans. So how do you choose, right? What's the subtle distinction? So now let's talk about a couple key differences, which is going to help you make sense of which plan might make sense for you. So I'm going to focus on some of the important key differences, again, from what we're hearing from some of our customers that they feel are important things to focus on. The first one, of course, is price, right? So if price is a concern, you'll want to understand what the pricing is for each of these platforms respectively. So these are the monthly costs for the basic plan, the grow plan, advanced, and the plus. Basic is the starter plan, right? $39 a month. Grow is a little bit step up. I think these are the two kind of middle plans, and then plus is kind of their top tier, much more enterprise plan for people who have much more sophisticated needs. This might be a little bit small to see, but one of the first things you want to think about are the different rates. So each of the different plans are going to have subtly different credit card rates. So if you're not familiar with that, what does that mean? That means anytime somebody purchases something from your store, there's a little bit of a percentage that gets taken out for the processing of the credit card fees. And of course, that comes out of your pocket, right? Because in essence, that's a fee that gets charged. So each of the different plans have a subtly different rate associated with it. So, for example, if you're using the advanced plan, you've got a 2.5% versus on the basic plan, which is a 2.9%. So you're getting charged a little bit more on the basic side versus the advanced side. And depending upon how many orders you do or how much volume you have kind of going through your site, those little percentage points could certainly mean a lot. So it's definitely something to think about if you're going to be making a choice or choosing something on the plans. The next important key differentiator is the staff accounts. So this is probably one of the most important ones to think about, which is how many people on your team, right? How many staff members on your team need access to Shopify? So if we look at the basic plan here, you'll see that it only comes with one account. So right off the bat, if you have a business and it's just you and you're just running it yourself, then sure, this basic plan makes lots of sense. But if you have other team members, other people on your staff who also need to log into it, um, this plan might not be the best choice for you. So if you look here on the grow and the advanced plans, again, 5 people, 10 people, unlimited. So this will be a good place to kind of start to think about, ooh, how many people are on my team? How many staff members do we have? And then how can we use that to determine if we need a higher plan versus the others? And of course, Shopify Plus has unlimited. The other one here, differentiator to think about is locations. So do you have multiple locations for your checkout? In other words, are you using maybe different warehouses? Do you have multiple retail stores? Are you maybe selling from different places? So each of the different plans give you 10, and then Shopify Plus gives you 200. So this is definitely something to think about, whether or not you have different locations. The next one here is third-party shipping rates. So are you using calculated rates from a carrier? So in other words, some people might just be doing flat rate shipping. So for example, on this basic plan here, you might just be saying, oh, I'm just going to ship everything for $5 and that's fine, or who cares, or everything's just a simple flat rate. But if you need to go out and say, well, wait a minute, I need FedEx or UPS or whomever to calculate my rates, right? These kind of real-time shipping rates, then you got to start moving up to some of these other plans here, right? In the Grow plan, it's technically not available natively, but you can pay for it separately. Whereas on the basic plan, you can't. And as soon as you jump up to the advanced or the Shopify Plus plan, it comes automatically. So this is an important thing to think about. How are you shipping your products? What do you need? Do you need calculated rates or not? Definitely something to think about here. And then lastly, in terms of a key differentiator, is the APIs. Are you connecting to third-party services, right? Do you have an ERP? Do you have a CRM? Are you connecting to some of these other ones that may require an API connection? So this is where the different plans are going to have different rates, right? So the basic and grow plans have a standard, what's called a rate limit. In other words, how much can you use this API? And then the advanced plan, you get what's called a 2x, so you get twice as many, and then plus has 10 times as many. So an important differentiator in the plan in terms of what kind of connectivity do you want. And then lastly, here on the plans, let's talk about Shopify Plus, because this is their kind of bigger, more enterprise level plan. And you can see the cost is pretty significantly different, but you get a lot of significantly different features that are really, really awesome. So we'll just do a quick overview of those, and then we'll pause and ask, see if anybody has any questions about these. So first and foremost, checkout customizations. So Plus is the only plan of the four that are shown here that lets you do checkout customizations. And this is really important for enterprise level companies. So if during your checkout step, you need to add or collect extra information, maybe you want to put some extra fields or do some donations or do something like a ship date or a calendar or delivery dates or things like that. If you need to edit the checkout on the do customizations there, you're going to want to use Shopify Plus because it has a whole feature called checkout UI extensions, and you can do a lot of really, really cool stuff there. So if you're needing to do some additional customizations on checkout, that's definitely something to think about. Plus also has high volume checkout. So if you're doing a lot of checkouts, like if you have a lot of traffic, you're doing really, really well, a lot of volume happening, you're going to want to use Plus because it gives you a little bit of a bigger pipe, gives you more traffic capabilities for you to handle lots of checkouts. The next one is the B2B. If you recall earlier, I had mentioned about B2B checkouts. So do you do any kind of B2B? Are you working with any kind of resellers or wholesalers? And so what does that mean exactly? So are you providing specialized pricing for anybody? Are you potentially needing to have separate price lists? Maybe you work with a certain company, you say, ooh, I want to make only certain products available to them for a very special price, like some kind of a special discount because they're buying in volume. Or maybe you want to say, hey, they're allowed to get a price break after every 10 or something like that. So these are the kind of like B2B features that are really, really important, critical, that come with the Shopify Plus plan. So that's a really, really important one to have if you're on the B2B side. A couple of the other Shopify Plus features was what's called Shopify Audiences. So a way for you to tap into a marketing slash advertising tools to reach new customers, right? Like I said earlier, Shopify has these integrated marketing tools. So your store may be set up, but how do you outreach? How do you find new customers? How do you run advertisements and things like that? That's something you're going to get with the access to Shopify audiences. You also get the expansion stores. You get up to 9 expansion stores. So when you have Shopify Plus, you don't just get the one instance, you can have up to 9 expansion stores to basically any additional stores that support the store that you have. And then the last two is bot protection. So they have really advanced protection if, for example, if you're running any kind of a sale or if you have your site set up, these days there's a lot of crazy bots and spams and things like that are happening. And so the Shopify Plus plan puts some advantages in there to protect you from that. And then lastly, like we mentioned a second ago, on the API side, uh, access to advanced APIs, 10x on the amount of calls and things that you can do. So these are just a couple of things that you get with Shopify Plus that really makes it a great plan to have if you're thinking more on the enterprise level side. So I want to pause there for a second. I know we have the Q&A going here. So if you have any questions about any of the plans or anything that we just talked about, again, from a high level, if you want to get really, really specific, I do suggest going to the Shopify site and taking a look. They really have a great way for you to see all the specific details. There's a lot of great stuff that are there, but we just really wanted to focus and highlight on some of the more specific ones. So I'm going to pause here for a second and see, do we have any questions at the moment, Patrick, around any of these plans or anything that we can address before we move on?
Sure. No questions yet. But I guess just a quick housekeeping note. Obviously, if there are questions, please do submit them in the Q&A section. It's at the bottom of your screen here in the Zoom. And there's just a few things that I wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were saying as far as reasons for moving to Shopify. One that I wanted to touch on was why Shopify's checkout is so great and so powerful. Obviously, like the layout, simplicity, and the familiarity is a huge piece of that. But one thing that Shopify offers that others really don't is this, essentially it's a data pool. So anybody that's ever checked out on any Shopify website, when they come to your Shopify website, Shopify already knows this person. They already have their information. So it actually requires them to enter a lot less information during the checkout process. So it looks great, it's familiar, but it also just that many fewer steps as far as actually, getting to that, checkout click button. Um, on the front of B2B, kind of again on the topic of like familiarity, as buyers for B2B, organizations are starting to, age into these roles where they're placing orders on behalf of businesses, familiarity is again a big factor here. So they come to your Shopify website where you're selling wholesale, they're going to know exactly, where to go, how to navigate the site, and it's just generally going to be a familiar experience for them. So I think that is one of those things that just encourages a higher adoption rate for your customers to start purchasing from you in a wholesale capacity. And then one thing I know that I think didn't really lean into is what Shopify offers in terms of themes and design. So, one of the biggest reasons that we see people moving to Shopify is, their site's a bit dusty. They launched their site 10, 15 years ago in some cases. And the prospect of redesigning on their current, open source platform or maybe just, highly customized platform is just so daunting. And then they look at Shopify, and there's just so many great themes out of the box. And even Shopify's new Horizon themes, where you can actually use AI to have Shopify create new sections and really just dial in what the website looks like and how it functions based on a few prompts. It just makes that whole process much easier. So for folks that are looking just to redesign their site, that in itself can be a great reason to consider the move to Shopify. And then last but not least, on the topic of these plans, obviously, all the information is here at your disposal on the Shopify website. But we actually just recently created our Shopify plan quiz. So we'll make sure to include that in our follow-up. But we've got just, a series of, 8 questions, I think it is now, maybe 9 questions to kind of guide you through this platform, the tier selection process, so that we can help you kind of fine tune what makes the most sense for you. But yeah, other than that, I think we're good to move on.
Cool. Great insight. Thank you, Patrick. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
So let's talk about knowing when you're ready to go, knowing when you can go. I do see one question though. Someone's asking about whether you can use Shopify with other platforms. I think this might be a good time to kind of address it. Here, let's go ahead and just kind of answer that one live. So the question somebody is saying is can you use Shopify's checkout potentially with another platform? And yeah, you do have the capability of doing that. Shopify's checkout with those APIs that we had talked about. This is where those APIs that we talked about comes into play. You can potentially have other websites maybe operating on the front end, and then you're funneling your customers when they're ready to buy through Shopify's checkout, right? As Patrick had mentioned, and as I mentioned earlier, Shopify's checkout is really, really awesome. So could you potentially have another website somewhere where you're just showing off the products, and as soon as they hit buy, you send them over to Shopify? Yeah, absolutely doable. There's many different ways where you can use Shopify's checkout engine, their shopping engine, with other parts of your site as well. So to answer your question, yeah, it's definitely doable, and it's something you can certainly consider. So how else do you know, right? How are you going to know that it's time to update? And I think this is an important one, right? So we talked about Shopify. We've shown you all these really, really great features. So yeah, it sounds like something you want, but when is the time, right? When do you know that you're ready to migrate? So we're going to talk about a couple, I guess, pain points or a couple issues, right? So if any of what we're talking about kind of resonates with you, right? If you're seeing these issues happening, then that's probably a little bit of a flag that says, you know what, it might be time for you to look at your current platform, your current host, your current e-commerce platform, and say, I might want to consider Shopify. So, what are some of those things um, for you to consider? Let's start with probably one of the most obvious, which is performance. Um, is your site slow? Is it taking too long? Are pages rendering slowly? Do you have any crashes, right? During the holidays, like the Black Fridays, Cyber Mondays, when you're getting those really big traffic spikes, is your site working well? Does it slow down during those times, right? This is probably the number one most important thing to think about, right? So think about your site. How is it performing? Is it performing well? Are you feeling any kind of slowdowns or anything? That's definitely an indicator to think about. Another thing to think about is the data. How reliable is the information on your site? Are you able to very easily run a report? Can you look at the information and know exactly, how many sales are on your store? Can you quickly see how many people have visited your site? As I mentioned earlier, analytics are important. So if you're going to figure out how to improve your store, you need to know what's happening on your store. So if you don't have reliable data, if you're feeling like, my site feels really kind of unreliable, then chances are you want to think about making a change. And then along those lines, the management of the site, right? Are you having problems processing your orders? A really big one that comes up a lot is inventory. Are you constantly every month or every week or every day exasperated because the counts don't seem right? You're like, I know I have 10 of these, but why is it only saying eight? Why is it only saying five? Whatever the case may be, this inventory is a really, really big one. And if you're having problems not keeping that information accurate, again, probably a red flag saying that your current platform isn't meeting your needs. Um, Missing features, right? Are you having a little bit of kind of that FOMO, right? Are you thinking to yourself, man, I really wish I was able to tap into some of these other really cool things that I'm seeing, these loyalty programs or these bundling features or a subscription. Those are really big ones, or those kind of like buy now, pay later apps that are available. Do you have those on your site? Right? That's what today's customers are looking for. They're looking at those modern features. Again, subscriptions like the Klarnas, buy now, pay laters, and things like that. Do you have that on your site? If you don't have it on your current site, how easy is it for you to add that to your site? And if you're kind of throwing up your hands going, my gosh, it's too complicated, right? If my site is too complicated to make these updates, then again, chances are you should be considering something because nowadays, Shopify has just made it so easy for you to go in and update pages, add banners to the homepage, making sure you're ADA compliant. Like all these things are much, much easier to do now with a more quality type of a platform. Um, so really, at the end of the day, if you've answered yes to any of these, right, or if any of these sound like common pain points, then really you're at a point now where you're thinking to yourself, it probably makes sense for you to make a change over to Shopify because everything that we just talked about is definitely something that can be alleviated using the right platform. And obviously, we really feel Shopify is that right platform for many, many reasons. So if you're trying to figure out the why of it, right? If you're really thinking to yourself, how am I going to know when the right time is for me to go ahead and make that move? Think about everything that we just talked about, right? Does any of that resonate with you? Does any of that sound familiar? If it does, then chances are you've probably outgrown your current platform and you might want to consider making a move. Okay, so let us jump back over here and get to hopefully the fun part of it, which is talking about some of the live sites. So during the registration process, we asked some people to send us their sites. So again, these are people who've given us their consent to go to their website and take a look at it. I'm hoping that the site owners are here so we can talk in real time. But if not, we'll just maybe take a couple quick spin throughs through the websites, taking a look at what the sites look like, and maybe talking about some of the things that we just saw a moment ago, and seeing, hey, does it make sense for these sites to potentially move over to Shopify? So I am going to go to one of the first ones who signed up, and let's see, it is a site called Whale Splash Manufacturing, Pets and Toys. So it is a pet website. I'm not sure, Patrick, do we know if the site owner is here for us to kind of chat with them in real time about it? I'll let you.
I don't think I see him in the attendee list,
Okay.
but there's a few like anonymous folks in here, so
Yeah,
perhaps.
definitely. Okay, well, if one of these anonymous ones, if this happens to be your site and you want to talk in real time, just raise your hand and we can have a real time discussion here. But let's take a look at the site, right? So is this a good site? Could this site potentially benefit from switching over to Shopify? So one of the first things we do with any kind of a site is saying, okay, well, let's talk about performance, right? As you remember from the webinar, performance is an important thing. If somebody comes to your site and it's really slow or sluggish and doesn't work all that well, chances are you're going to lose them almost immediately because people want a fast moving site. So if we look at this site, we like to use one of these insight tools. So I'm going to switch over here, and we ran this particular site through Google's what they call their Lighthouse, their page speed tool tester. And it goes through and analyzes a couple different things. It looks at performance, it checks the accessibility, making sure you're using the best practices in SEO. So if we look at this particular site, you can see that they've received, this is the pets, a 73. Now you can see it's still kind of yellow. It's not really the best. You really want to have that really in the high 80s and 90s. Shopify's website's kind of out of the box. That's what you're getting, right? So out of the box on a typical Shopify site, you're already going to be achieving in the 80s and 90s, depending on if you're adding apps or what you're doing. So right off the bat, if we were just to take a look at this particular site, we can see by if we were just to move over to Shopify, we could increase this baseline already. These guys are kind of a little bit below where it should be. And in terms of what's causing that, if we scroll down and look, we can see a couple different things here, right? Something on the site is taking a really long time here to load. That's what this largest contentful paint means. It means something is taking a long time to finally paint on the screen. They've got a pretty good what's called the FCP, right? The first contentful paint. You can see this is in green, saying, hey, that first instance of something happening on the screen is within a good range, which means, hey, people will feel like something good is happening. Overall, though, their performance still is a little bit low, but at least something is happening soon enough that people don't abandon the site. So if we were to continue to kind of scroll down, we'll notice here that some of their image efficiency isn't the best, right? It looks like you're getting some of the image deliveries taking a little bit, they have a lot of resources, and some of it's taking a little bit of a long time. So this is actually something that Shopify does really well. Shopify has what's called a CDN, a content delivery network that's built into their platform. So every time you upload an image or upload anything into Shopify's platform, it puts it into the CDN and then it caches it. So what that means is it saves a copy and then puts it on the edge network of the internet. So as people go to it, they're always potentially having a cached version that they can get to, and that really improves performance. So they have a really robust delivery network that's all across the country. So no matter where you are, it's pulling that information from one of the nodes that are closest to wherever it is that you are. Um, so again, if we take a look at this site, this Lighthouse tool shows us some of the different things that are happening. So this is kind of analytical, right? So these are definitely some numbers. What about just kind of visually looking at the website? Right? Let's go back now and take a look at the actual site itself and see what it's doing and seeing if it makes sense. If you remember before, we talked about checkout. We talked about Shopify's checkout process is really streamlined and they're able to really convert a lot better just from a checkout standpoint. So why don't we try to just pick any kind of random product and let's see what that experience looks like, right? Is it easy for me to check out? Is it easy for me to put something in the cart and kind of get to the checkout? I don't know. Let's take a look at it in real time here. So I'm just going to pick something random here. This snuffle mat here for cats. Okay, it looks cool. So I've got this particular product. Um, I'm kind of scrolling down here. So right off the bat, I'm not sure if I can buy this product. I don't see a buy button. So
Yeah, Dean, maybe I could chime in here. I
sure.
was doing a little bit of digging on the site. So, Whale Splash Manufacturing, they're a manufacturer,
Mhm.
and according to their website, they sell both B2B and B2C. but
Okay.
currently it appears their website is strictly functioning as a catalog.
Okay.
So I think there's a big opportunity, to start selling on the website, whether that's direct to consumer or wholesale or some combination of that, and doing both. Obviously, that's a broader business discussion to make sure understand what makes the most sense. But all of those configurations, I think, would be relatively easy to execute on Shopify. And if in fact they wanted to start selling, direct to consumer first and, maintain their current workflows as far as selling wholesale in, whatever fashion is that they currently do it, whether that's transacting directly in their ERP, I would suspect they could actually get away with using, the Grow or the advanced license, and not, have to bite off the plus license off the bat. But if they wanted to consolidate their B2B sales online as well, it would open up a whole slew of features that would benefit them on the direct to consumer side as well. So I think there's, a bunch of different avenues to success here on Shopify. For Whale Splash, it's just a question of, are they ready to start actually transacting online?
Cool. Thanks for that insight. Yeah, that's super handy. So I think right off the bat, we were able to very quickly figure out that, again, looking at the website here, they're talking about B2B and B2C. This is probably a great candidate for Shopify Plus, right? Being able to do that B2B. Now, luckily, Patrick was able to kind of solve it for, for me here in real time. But imagine if I just kind of stumbled across the site and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I really want to get some of these pet toys. Is it, obvious to me here, right? Is it obvious that I need to go somehow contact them separately, right? If this is in fact a catalog or a B2B site, wouldn't it be great to provide a B2B experience here? So someone can come in and says, "Hey, are you a retailer? Excuse me, are you a reseller? Right? Are you a wholesaler? Are you potentially interested in reselling some of those? Let's talk B2B. Here's some specialized pricing." So that's the kind of thing that you could potentially do with Shopify and Shopify Plus. Have the D2C business where people could just potentially buy, but also have something, if I'm understanding the site correctly, having something for people to be able to check out on a B2B side, or maybe even sign up. Having a little form here, which is something Shopify can do natively, that says, "I'm interested in becoming a reseller." Then they can put their information. They could fill out this form. It would send an email to the store owner, and then they would know, hey, somebody is interested. So
Yeah.
I think that would be great. So looking at what they have here, I mean, again, the site looks cool. Looks like they've got some good stuff here. But I think from a B2B integration, they could probably be servicing that B2B audience a little bit better, using something like Shopify Plus and giving the B2B audience a way to interact with the site, maybe sign up, signal that they're interested in some of the products, or maybe even purchase, right? Maybe even actually check out and purchase. So unfortunately, the store owner doesn't look like they've made themselves noticed here on this particular thing. So either they're keeping quiet, or they're not on the call. So again, we don't know that there could be some other stuff here. So I don't want to make any assumptions without having them on the call necessarily. But
Yeah.
definitely something to think about in terms of the site. So why don't we maybe pop over? We've only got about
I
10
did
minutes
have
left.
I did have maybe one more just quick insight. I
Sure.
noticed there on the banner on the left, if you scroll down a little bit, it looks like they're offering product customization.
Hmm.
So, depending on how complex that customization offering is, whether it's, different colors or putting a logo on things, there's certainly apps in the App Store that can, do some of those things. But that's kind of the area where Shopify is also extendable, and like there's the ability to do some really cool, highly custom stuff on Shopify. So if they've got some really elaborate customization they do, that's also something that can be done. But yeah, if it's relatively simple, there may in fact be an app or just maybe something that Shopify can handle natively out of the box.
Cool. Yeah, great insight there. Thank you. So yeah, so again, thank you guys to the Well Splash guys and Pet Toys for sending, giving us you being brave and giving us your URL. Unfortunately, I hope we represented it correctly. But let's move on to another Prudence C. So this is another manufacturer or retailer who gave us their website, said, "Hey, let's do an audit." So again, I'm not sure if anyone from this particular site is on. If you are, please raise your hand. Let us know. We'd love to kind of talk about it in real time and make sure we're saying the right things here. So again, looking at the site, looks like a jewelry website. Looks like they are selling products on this site. So if I actually click into it, you can see there are actual shop links here to be able to shop and purchase. And you can look at the different categories and collections for this particular site. So that's great. So this definitely looks like an actual D2C shipping website. Looks like they're based out of New York. Again, following the same model we did just a moment ago, let's take a look at the page insights. So this particular site, unfortunately, is faring a lot worse than the previous site. So their performance is actually much on a lower end, 58. So they're kind of halfway there, and you can see that they're actually suffering from a couple problems, which is the FCP, the first paint, and then the LCP, the largest contentful paint. So that basically means like it's taking a really long time, 6 seconds before something happens on the website. And that's a long time, right? To get that first paint, to get something to happen immediately. That's a long time. They'll have somebody waiting for 6 seconds. And again, that's something that does not happen on Shopify. So right off the bat, if I was to see this, I would say, hey, yeah, but if this is the best that your current site can do, we'll definitely want to think about migrating because 6 seconds is an eternity and people are definitely going to leave, right? People are don't want to stick around for a long time, definitely. And if we look in terms of what is happening, you'll notice here kind of the same issue. They've got some delivery issues when it comes to some of the images. We can see here, based off of this, it looks like they're running a WordPress website from what we see here. And then if we scroll down and look at some of the other issues, we can see that there's a lot of JavaScript. If we open this, you can see that it's utilizing a lot of different JavaScript. For those of us in the web world, I can see here they're using jQuery. jQuery is a bit of an older technology, so I'm not surprised that things are taking a long time to load on the website. Um, Shopify has done away with jQuery many, many years ago and gone for more modern frameworks and modern tools. So again, just from a very high level kind of cursory audit, already I can see a couple things that, I feel pretty confident that Shopify could certainly come in and give you some better speed and performance on the actual website itself. But going back to the site, let's do what we talked about earlier. Let's try to put something in a shopping cart and let's see what the shopping experience looks like, right? Could Shopify's checkout experience give them something better? I don't know. Let's take a quick peek here in real time, right? So I'm going to click the shop link and we're going to wait. They've got some really nice looking jewelry here. I'm just going to randomly pick anything here. Let's pick this E508. Click on it. And we're waiting. And again, this is real time. I haven't done anything else. So you see that, man, that wasn't the fastest. It took a couple seconds for those things to kind of pop up. Now, you might think that that's not too bad, but imagine somebody browsing the site or kind of looking around. All of these few seconds of waiting things to pop up could potentially, make people feel like, this site isn't very well performative. It's not working very well. So, all these little few seconds definitely add up. So looking at the site that's here, right, gives you some kind of basic information about the site, excuse me, about the product. I don't see a lot of kind of lifestyle. So again, without having the customer on here, I don't know if they have that kind of information. I will say if you are, trying to attract customers or attract people to your product, it does not have the most engaging name, and there's not a lot of information here from a product description standpoint. Now, I'm not saying that to bash the customer in any or the client or this particular merchant in any way, but I'm saying that to say that Shopify has some great native tools where if you are a little bit light in your descriptions or your titles, you can use what they call Shopify Magic. And Shopify Magic will actually help generate extended product descriptions for you. You can feed it some information. For example, look at the great information that they've got here. You could literally take this information, feed it into Shopify's AI description tool, and it'll write out a little bit more of a longer description for you and put in some of those cool little flourishes, right? Hey, great bracelet that, features blue crystals and gold base, right? Just a little of that extra content and context that SEO and search engines love. So already off the bat, if I was to look at this and say, hey, are there advantages you can get in the Shopify world? Yeah. Now, maybe they're doing this for a reason. I'm not sure. Again, I don't want to say the wrong thing without them not being on the call here. But it's definitely something we know we could do with the Shopify world. But let's look at the checkout process. Let's say I wanted to purchase these earrings. I'm going to add it to the cart. And then I'm waiting. And so now you can see here, I've got this added to your cart. Looks like I'm back on the cart page, which is great. I've got this bar up here on the top. Let's try to actually check out. So I'm going to click view my cart. So I go to my cart page. I've got some stuff in the cart here, showing me some checkout totals here. Looks like they've got some options for checking out. Let's see what the actual checkout page itself looks like. So I'm going to click on the checkout page. Now, again, this is where, like we talked about earlier, that conversion for checkout comes into play. Now, some of it's a little bit subjective, of course, right? But is this presented nicely, right? Is it very clear, like what's happening or what you need to do? Um, it's kind of tough to say, right? I look at this on the top here, so like obviously you have to kind of scroll down to get to it. There's like this double column thing happening here. That's a lot of information. Is it really clear where you need to put some stuff? I see billing details here, shipping to a different address. One could argue that the layout here maybe isn't the best because you've got these kind of double columns. Things aren't quite aligned from an alignment standpoint. So from a visual standpoint, things are just feel kind of a little bit off. Again, some of it's a little bit subjective, but Shopify has done a lot of research on this. And I know in Shopify's world, they've really gone to this streamlined approach where everything is linear, everything's on top of itself, so the customer feels like there's more of a journey. So in other words, here it's like, do I fill this out first or do I fill this out first, right? Do I go here, do I go there, right? It's not, you don't feel like you're flowing into a process. You're kind of hunting and pecking a little bit. So again, in Shopify's conversions, they figured out and they've done away with this. They've done it also like you're going in line. So whatever you need to fill out first is shown on the page first, is being displayed on the page first. So I think this is, an area where Shopify's checkout could potentially improve conversion here because it might be a little bit more clear, what you need to do. Um, and then now if I keep scrolling down, um, yeah, I mean, again, some of it's subjective, but even aesthetically, like this just feels really weird and feels like there's an error on the site or something like that, right? If I look at this, like somehow the credit card is really small and squashed over here. I've got this weird scroll bar that's happening here. I don't know. It just doesn't give me a sense, right? This is where I have to put in my money, right? This is where I have to say, hey, I'm giving you money. Do you get confidence here? Does this feel confident? And then your other choices that are kind of here, um, kind of questionable, right? So again, this is where I think, unfortunately, we don't have the client on here to talk about it, but I think from a conversion standpoint, does this really give your customer the feeling of a confidence? They feel like this is a site, an enterprise site that's been designed and developed. It's a bit unclear. I would say that, maybe this isn't the best layout here. And then down at the bottom, it says PayPal and Venmo. So I guess, am I choosing that separately? Because I put in my credit card information here. So what am I doing, right? So again, it's all about conversions, right? It's all about how quickly can you get somebody to check out? And is it obvious that the button's way over here? Because it looks like to me it's way over here on this place my order. But the first thing I see is this PayPal and Venmo. So if your eye is going down line here, I'm a little bit confused to say, wait, what do I need to do to convert? But that convert button's way over here on the right hand side. So it may seem trivial. It may, some of you may think like, well, it's just right there. But research and studies, we, Sunrise Integration, we do what's called UXR, which is a UX research. You'll be surprised how something as little as this, people don't see it because the button is white, the background's white, and you have these very bright yellow and blue links here. So your eye goes to this. So customers won't even see this. It's quite often that they won't even know that it's there until it gets pointed out to them. So if the idea, and again, going back to Shopify stats, which is their sites convert better, this is a perfect example of why. They've thought about this and they've said, hey, let's do away with these things that are going to distract you. And I'd much rather see this place order link being here, big and yellow, to get to somebody to think, ah, great, it's a no-brainer. I don't have to think about it. I can just kind of click this link. So again, very high level cursory audit. It looks like the merchant isn't on this call, so I don't want to spend too much time kind of bashing this in any way. Again, there are definitely some nice designs, but I think there's a couple of things here that we've already talked about that could certainly make sense in terms of making a better conversions or making things maybe just a little bit better. Okay, well, in terms of timing wise here, I want to be able to kind of wrap things up. and get back to things. If there are any questions or Q&A or anything at all like that, or if anybody wants to talk about anything in real time, we'd be happy to kind of discuss anything that you've seen up until here so far. Patrick, is there anybody with any pending questions at all that we want to go over at this point?
No, no new questions cropped up in the Q&A. I guess just one or two closing thoughts on the last site. Occasionally some of these sites that were probably launched, 5, 6, 7 years ago, may not do the best in terms of mobile responsiveness either. So another thing always that we always look at is how well does this site function on mobile, where in many cases, well, way over 50% of conversions are actually taking place. So that's definitely very high on our list of priorities when it comes to designing and building sites on Shopify. The other thing I noticed that she offers by appointment only consultations. So Shopify's got some great like booking tools and that kind of stuff. So that would all be at your fingertips if that's relevant for you or your business. And then last and certainly not least on the topic of AI. So, if a bunch of lifestyle images and product photography isn't necessarily available, there's some great ways to leverage the imagery and photography that is already on the site to generate videos and really do some really cool things that can showcase the products as product images or as, broader lifestyle images to incorporate in the website. All things that are kind of at the bleeding edge of e-commerce and, things that we're always considering when new folks are moving to Shopify. But that's all I wanted to tag on there.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Really appreciate that. Okay, well, we want to thank everybody for taking part in this, and thank you to the two merchants who provided their websites for us to kind of shred apart. We thank you for that. Of course, if you do have any questions about Shopify, anything that we just talked about, or anything Shopify related, we would love it for you to reach out and drop us a line. Again, we handle all kinds of different things on the Shopify side, from design to POS to development and integration. So we'd happy to talk to you about that. We want to take a few seconds here to talk about the next webinar that's coming up in July. So we just talked about all the different Shopify plans and having to pick the right one. Next month, we want to talk about Shopify Plus specifically. As you saw from a moment ago, there's a lot of really great features that are just on Shopify Plus. So in next month's webinar, we're going to spend the time going over those features very specifically, looking at what they are, how they work, and why they're premium features, and why again, if you're on the enterprise side, maybe running a little bit of a larger site, why you would need those features, and how they can really help with your sales and optimizing your site. So thank you everyone for taking part in this webinar. We thank you all for joining. There will be a recording of this up on our YouTube page. And if you do have any questions or anything, definitely feel free to reach out. But thank you everyone for your time, and we hope to see you in July.